Hey everybody, it's Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuits, and I'm sorry I've been absent for a few days. One of my employees is in the hospital, and I had to go out to Ohio and kind of deal with the fallout of him not being there and stuff. So I'm back, and I am ready to make some shit. So I got my glue gun hot. It hasn't been hot for a few days. It whistled when I turned it on because it missed me. It was a R2 sad whistle. No, it didn't whistle. But man, that would have been something. Probably would have scared me. So what I have here is a... For those of you that are new, you don't know this. For those of you that have been here, you know this. This is a poker chip from the Dollar Tree, and they come in a pack with yellow, green, blue, and red chips. And I've roughed it up with a metal brush, and I'm just cutting some grooves in there with my knife, which you don't really have to, I don't think, but it's just a paranoia thing for me to make sure the glue sticks really, really well. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab some stupor glue. That's the glue that's stupor. And I'm going to fill this up with a thin layer that goes out to these little edges and maybe just pops over them in some spots here and there so that it's not a perfect circle. And I'm going to spread my glue evenly across, just letting a little bit of flow out to fill it in. And this is going to be a lot like, you know, how you would ice a cookie, I guess. You kind of go back and forth and then let it move around in its natural spot, and then you kind of bounce it around. And the only reason I know about icing cookies is because my mother is actually a very, very talented cookie artist. She actually used to have a business where she taught people how to decorate cookies, and she was a professional, like, cookie salesperson. Not salesperson, but, like, she made cookies professionally, like, for a living, and did very, very well with her life with that. My mother is a phenomenal artist, and I would love to possess a portion of her talent. So anyways, so what I've got here is a base. And so this monster, I'm thinking I'm going to call it the Yagsluthe, or the Yagsluthe maybe. Let me get a pen and let's see what we can come up with a name. If I can find a pen is the catch. All right, I got a pen with no ink. Here's a pen with ink. Let's call it the Yagsluthe. Okay. And I have a little bit of craziness about this thing. Let's get started making one. So I have some parts here. I have an old brontosaurus that you could use. A new brontosaurus, missing part of a tip. Another brontosaurus. A monster with a mouth with teeth. And I have some ladies. All right. So essentially this creature, which I'm thinking I want to use this dude because of his crazy face. So let's get those wings off him because the Yagsluthe cannot fly. So let's nip that tail off of there. Just like that. Well, I wanted to save that wing, but it went flying. Great. It's in the pile of things that I'll never find again. So let's snip this down a little bit. Clean some of that off of there. Just like that. And this doesn't have to be perfect, because of course, I don't got time for all that. Sweet. I think we got it cleaned up pretty good. Not perfect, but pretty good. Now we need something to be his tail. And the Yagsluthe's main function is coming from the power of this tail. So I think I'm going to try to take this neck here, see if I can't get a good bite on that, and turn that into what I need for my Yagsluthe tail. Yagsluthe tail. And I think we can make that work. Oh, okay. I'll tell you what, I was really stressed out. I've had a lot of work going on, a lot of big, just really dramatic, tiresome things going on in my professional career. And I came back to town today, and I got home and hugged my kids and hugged my wife and gave them some presents I had picked up for them, and had a sip of coffee my beautiful wife had waiting for me when I came in. And it's just, everything's great and wonderful. And I walked into my shop down here, turned on my glue gun, got my garage door open, lit a cigarette, and I'll tell you what, man, all the stress of the world just, bam. I'm like, oh my God, the shop. Oh, the shop. So what we need is we need a female, basically from about the crotch up. And the reason is because the Yagsluthe burrows underground, and then in the bushes and stuff around its lair, it wiggles its tail, and its tail has a semi-articulated woman upper half. So this one, she might be pretty good. Let's see if we can't get that gun off her. Oh, look, we could. And let's see if we can't get her crotch up. And we'll snip this little pouch off. And we'll clean up that area a little bit. Then what we want to do is we want to flatten the size of her legs a teeny bit. So these guys wag their tail around. We need to bring those in a little bit more. And it has an orifice, which is technically kind of like a blowhole or maybe even a butthole where the mouth is. But the eyes are actually just a like a coloration on the creature. So it has a mouth that opens, and it makes a whistling, screeching sound that sounds like a non-distinct, not in any particular language, girl calling for help. And it waves around and makes its arms flail like it's being dragged underground or something. And so the heroes will rush up to save the lady, and it's actually the Yagsluthe. So the Yagsluthe are not created by necessarily any magical means like many of the creatures I design, or they're not a true fey creature like some of the ones I designed. They are in fact just a magical beast that naturally evolved to be predators of humans. And they are not active at all times. They hibernate most of the time. They are fat, and they are lazy hunters. So they will put the minimum amount of effort into getting the most amount of food. So they will try to capture a human. They prefer humans. We don't know why. There's been lots of speculation. The druids and the wizards all think they know the answer, but the truth is they just do. Well, anyways, the Yagsluthe is a gross motherfucker. Look at that. Gross. Ooh. Anyways, they prefer humans, and we don't know why, but they just like the taste. I'm not doing that. Let's do this. Let's get the little bits of the glue. Get that on the base. Now, I designed this creature originally when I was in high school. So you have to imagine that was like 30 years ago. I designed this creature for a campaign that my best friend that still plays with me was in. Most of the other players are dead. All but 2 of the players from that campaign have died. There were me and 7 players, and 5 of those players are dead. So I didn't have a name for it at the time, and I used the monster once again when I was in the army, but I didn't have a miniature for it either time. Now, when I use it, I'll have a miniature for it. I used it once again when I was DMing in the army, but I had drawn a picture of it to show to people, and I just used a miniature of like a dinosaur or something to represent it in that encounter. And actually, a really good friend of mine thought it was a very disturbing creature. He's passed away. He was in the service with me, and he didn't die in the army. He died years later of other reasons that were like, very natural instead of violent. But he really thought this was one of my most disturbed creatures because they had no idea what was going on when it attacked. They really thought it was like some strange foreign lady that had got trapped in their land, and she was like just overly crazy and trapped and in peril, and they wanted to save her so bad, and they could not. All right, so he bends his tail down. When you come up to her, she will wrap her arms around you, it's not a she, it's a tail, and then it will pull the tail down, holding you to the mouth and try to swallow you whole. So that I was actually happy to use that dinosaur head because this is what I was going to try to use, was this. And it wouldn't have been as good. It still would have been a disturbing miniature, no doubt, but it wouldn't have been exactly what I wanted. So now I'm going to take this, I'm just going to shave down some of these bumps that I cut close and kind of get rid of those. I'm just using my knife to naturally kind of smooth this back out. A little bit. That's all I'm trying to do. Is just slowly and carefully smooth that back out some, just like that. And then I'm going to run 2 very, very thin beads to the tail. And they're going to come together and touch as one line. All right. So that's the basic design for our Yagsluthe. Again, I didn't have a name for it. Oh, I like this piece. I'm going to save that. I could use that as a weird cactus or super cool plant. I'm going to set that off to the side to go in my parts box. I'm going to save her legs. And I'm going to save all these other pieces too. Well, these aren't pieces. Those are going to go back in their boxes that I got them out of. Set those up here for now, so I don't have to dig boxes out during the video. So this should be cool now, and it is. By the way, it is 44 degrees outside. I am officially out of the cold snap that made it impossible to be down here. So I'm able to do this with you guys and not freeze my extremities off in the process. So just to get this going, so we don't have to make it in 2 videos, I'm spraying it with clear coat. This is just Rust-Oleum Matte Clear Enamel Clear Coat. I'm going to hit it with the hot air gun, +5 hot air gun of burning, and I'm going to base coat it in a thin coat of black paint and dry it again. Now, I am worried about these joints, and for those of you that live in hot areas that are concerned that those might melt apart, what we can do is we can get a little bit of baking soda and a little bit of super glue, and we can shore these up with a thin bit of glue, sprinkle some baking soda across it, and that'll give us a little bit of texture to look at, but it won't be, you know, a ton of texture. Let's make sure we get her right around her parts here. And we want to kind of bring it up onto her stomach and do the tail. And the reason we want to do that is because we don't want you to see the seams of her little pants and belt and stuff. We're going to try to remove those with this. So we got our tail pretty good. And it's not perfect. And I tell you what, by Jove, I think we've got it. Sprinkle glue on that. Flip it over, sprinkle some glue, get the back. I think we got the tail pretty well covered, it looks like. Sturdy. Oh yeah, very sturdy. Nice. Let's get this off to the side. Let's put our glue away. Let's get some black paint. I had a cup here of some kind of color. What's that? Oh, that's thick. That's very thick. All right. Yeah, it's like days old, so it's kind of dry. Is this dry? No, that's not dry either. Is this dry? There we go. This is dry. Let's get a little bit of our paint water. Just the tiniest drop. That was too much. Tiny drop of paint water. Let's get some black paint. Oh, not that one. Here we go. I was not able to get my normal big thing of black paint, so I had to buy this. So I'm going to have to get a little funnel or make a little funnel and pour it into that thing. Because I have a funnel I use for glue, but I don't want to use it for paint. Okay, that's probably too much. All right. Get your sloppy, crappy, cheap plastic brush and your water and your paint. And get a lot of that off your brush because that was ridiculous. And let's get a coat on here. And it should stick pretty good since we put that clear coat on there and dried it. That clear coat's almost as good as hairspray. But I don't think Lady Von Doom wants me going up there and stealing her hairspray. I don't think she uses it that much. Lady Doom is so beautiful that she doesn't need makeup. That's right. Nor does she care to put it on. She has worn it for special occasions, funerals, and church and stuff at times. But we don't really go to church anymore, and we don't really go to funerals anymore because everybody died. There's a few left, but by this point in life, most of them that are going to die in a big group have died. We're just, you know, casually waiting to see if anybody else does, I guess. I guess isn't that what we all do at a certain point? Just sit around and wait to see who goes next. think there's this weird thing when you're in your 40s and 50s where you're like, okay, well, we went to high school with them and they are now dead. People we grew up with or knew from college, whatever it may be. I don't know what movie it's from. I'm sure you could tell me. If you do know, tell me in the comments. But they say there comes a time where you start losing more than, life starts taking away more than it gives. And I think that's where some of us are right now. And that's okay, because it gives us a lot. Even when it seems horrible, life can be absolutely awesome. For those of you that have kids, you've probably had lots and lots of experiences that prove life can be awesome. Anybody has lots of experience, but it seems to me like having kids is not exclusive to, but is a big part of life being awesome. Because a lot of my happiness really, honestly, comes from my children. Like, my little boys, I bought them miniatures when I was out of town. Because, you know, hello. And they're horror miniatures for this horror board game. But they're not going to use it for that. I don't know what it's called, Final Act or Final Cut or Final Girl, something like that. But I bought them horror miniatures. And to watch them divide that box of 22 miniatures, 11 and 11, fairly, and take turns picking, and the way they were talking about what they could do with the characters and stuff, and what they could paint them like, or what they could use them as, I don't think there's more joy in the world than watching something like that for an old man like me that crafts and loves role-playing games. And okay, so what I'm thinking is the front of this thing is purple, the back of this thing is orange, and it goes up to a flesh color. That's what I'm thinking. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get a soft makeup brush from the Dollar Tree, and I'll get some white paint, and I want to see where all my detail is. That's the first step. I do this a lot. If you're new, this is also how a lot of people start with doing like slap chop, crap chop, pap chop, and nap chop. Nap chop's where you take a nap while you paint miniatures. But I'm just a lazy painter, and I like to see what I'm working on. And I do use a lot of speed paints, but on the channel, I don't use a lot of speed paints. The reason I don't use a lot of speed paints on the channel is because a speed paint pot costs between $4 and, depending on the brand, if you're getting contrast paints or whatever you're getting, but it costs between about $4 and $11, depending on what you get and where you get it. So I know that for most of the people that are watching how to make custom miniatures, you're not interested in spending a bunch of money on paint when you can get dollar paint at Walmart. So if anybody's wondering why I use a lot of Walmart paint and dollar paint and stuff, that's actually why. Not because I don't have other paint or I don't know how to use other paint. It's because that's what most of the people interested in what I'm doing, and kind of why I do what I do is to cater mostly to the people who can't get the minis they want. Now, when it comes to these custom minis, you really are just picking and choosing a fight there of who's going to be watching the custom stuff like that, you know. But when I made the monster manual, I really told myself to like go with the cheapest materials I could, because I knew that's where the divide would begin. So for the first part here, I'm getting purple, and this is called Purple Pansy, and I'm going to get a decent brush for coverage, and it's a plastic crappy brush. I'm going to get some water on my cardboard here, and I'm going to get some of my Purple Pansy, and I'm going to thin that out to where it's kind of like melted butter thickness, like the melted margarine, not real butter. And I'm going to come around here, and I'm going to try not to get it in the mouth too much. If I do, that's okay. We are going to be coming back to paint that. But what I want to do is I want to get the head for sure. And then I want to come to this halfway point. Let me get a little more water there. This halfway point here, I want to come directly to that halfway point and stop with the purple. So I want to get up underneath here, and I want to come get that leg covered in a little bit more. Pull that around in the water. I did not get enough water. Then we want to kind of come across the back and make that straight. Get the back. You could do the underside with those round parts and something else, but I'm just going to do it all in one color. So the first part of this Barney mother effer is going to be that. Now, what you want to do at this point is you want to get your water again, and you want to thin this out, and you want to kind of work into that next area just a little bit with that really thin watered down paint. And that's going to be where our transition is between the orange and the purple. Now let's put the purple away and hit this with the air gun. Now you can see already, because of how I had it painted black, and then I used some thinner paint that's watered down and used the purple, you can already see there's some depth present just from that. And I use that as a big premise of my lazy painting techniques. There's already some variation there. There's already a step down in tone there. The deeper areas are still a little darker. The black paint's the base coat under it. Now for the next part back, I'm going to get a lighter type red. I have flag red here. Let's see, a red apple right here. Let's see how that looks. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get that same brush we just had. It's cleaned out. We're going to get a little bit of water from our thingy bob there. We're going to thin that paint out. And a little thicker than that. So it's like that melted margarine that you have in the microwave. And then we're going to come here. And we're going to go about halfway up the tail with that. And we're going to stop right where the purple starts for now, okay? Right where the thinner purple is. It's not as dominant of that watered down stuff we used at the end of the purple. Okay. I need to come back and hit some of this spot a little better. It absorbed into the baking soda a little bit, and I lost some of the saturation of the color. So I'm just going to come back in here and re-hit that up. Just like that. And that's what we wanted. Now, we're going to get that color, and we're going to carefully start dragging it and not hitting every single spot where those merge together. So you don't want to cover every single inch. You want it to be a little bit sloppy. Right, just like that. So some of the purple and the red are alternating, and we're going to use that as the base of our blend for color. We're going to come back and hit that line there, that barrier line, and then we're going to get water and paint. And this is really thin. This is watered down like hot tea or something. And we're just going to come over here and do this line here and make a red base coat there. That's going to be real thin, and you can see through it and paint through it easily. And we're going to do that for the next third of the tail up. And when that dries, you're going to see a lot more dark through that. I'll rinse out my brush. Air gun. Now I want kind of an obnoxious base coat under my flesh tone. So I have this color called Cameo Pink. And because we don't want this to look like a natural flesh tone, when you pull this miniature out, you've already exposed that it's not a real human woman. Or a real elf woman, or real whatever, you know, whatever you're doing. So we're going to get that. We're going to get a nice melted butter texture almost, where it's more paint than water for sure. And we're going to start painting her up, and we're going to do it in such a way that we make sure that we don't lose any of the natural tones created by the original paint job. That's going to be a crucial part of success on this. I mean, on the whole miniature, it's a part of the success, but on this part, I have a feeling it's going to be crucial. And the reason I add the caveat, I have a feeling, instead of just saying it is a fact, is because I've never done this before. But I've done a lot of things, and I have ideas how it's going to work most of the time, and I'm ballpark right a lot, so ballpark wrong a lot too, actually. So okay, so that's where that dividing line is, and that'll be good enough, I think. But what we want to do now is we want to water that down even further. Okay, we want to get some of that out of the brush, and we want to come down here across that red, and we're not looking for a perfection or a really thick coat. We're looking for a very watery thin coat, and if we miss a spot or two, I think it'll be okay. I think it will. All right, clean out my brush, put my pink away. You're probably thinking to yourself right now, Doom, this looks stupid. Well, it might end up looking stupid, so ha. But you clicked on the video, so made you look. All right, so this next part we're going to need to flip our cardboard around and get a dry spot. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a fanned out beater plastic brush. I'm going to get a lighter color of purple. And I'm going to get a little bit of that paint, that lighter purple. My lighter purple is called Concord Grape. And I'm actually going to get a little tiny bit of this sky blue with it. No, not the sky blue. I want that. What's that one I had? What's it called? Is it? Yeah, award blue. Sorry. I'm going to get a little bit of award blue with it. Just a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to take my purple and blue mixture, and I'm going to match it for a pretty significant step down. Then I'm going to get a soft brush and collect that up. Right there like that, and hit all of it real quick. And then I'm going to come back with this brush. I'm going to wipe a lot of that out. I'm going to do across his eyes, nose, cheeks, and back. And I'm going to walk that back further into the purple, the red a little bit. Okay, just a little bit. Like that. Now we're going to do the same thing. Well, with a darker red. Orange, darker orange. So I have a color here somewhere called tomato orange, ripe tomato. And we're going to do something very similar. But we're not going to desaturate it with a different color like I did with the blue. So let me wash my brush. Let me get some of this orange and see if I can do it with this brush. I don't know if I'd be able to. All right, let me get a soft brush. This is a makeup brush from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to try it with this. Here, well, that works. But I'm going to have to hit it twice, it looks like. I'm going to need to lighten this up one more stage. So let's turn this into more of a half-ass undertone at that point. All right? Stick with me, folks. We're trying here. Okay, let's get a lighter orange. This is called Jack-o'-lantern. I'm going to leave a little bit of this dark in my brush, and I'm going to grab a little bit of that light. And I'm going to hope this is enough step down in tone that, or step up in tone that, yeah, there we go. That it creates the orange effect I wanted. And I'm going to go overlap where that purple was, just some. And use that as part of my transition. Then I'm going to work up here on this area a little bit more. And try to start really lightening it up as I step into the flesh tone around this area. I'm coming up onto the edge of that body part some. And then we're going to get rid of that. I'm going to use that same brush for now. I'm going to get a flesh tone color. This is called Sun-Kissed Peach. Oh, I went too far down on that for the blend. That might work. There's a little bit of orange in it. It actually kind of did what I needed. I can live with that. All right, get rid of that brush. Dry this off. You're like, how many makeup brushes do you have? Dude, they're $1. I got as many as I need. Whoops. All right, so with the same Sun-Kissed Peach and a brush with no orange in it, I'm going to grab a dab of that peach. I'm going to hit her again, and I'm starting to pull some paint off. So let's set that off to the side, and by set it off to the side, I mean throw it in the water, we're done with it. We're going to do all these highlights manually, so just bear with me for a minute here. So all I'm doing is painting the uppermost part. Oh, did you see that shit? Emergency field repair. And I'm trying to focus on those areas where I started. It got it so wet, and then I was putting pressure, and it started pulling paint off. I'm trying to clean those up first, okay? So I'm hitting the high areas, and then I'm going to clean my brush out. And we're going to hot air guy. Now, if you want to be creative, instead of this being a non-intelligent tail that has working arms and a mouth that can make noise, it's a mermaid with a fucked up body. Just saying, it's an option. All right, for the mouth, we're going to get in there with a dark red. And we're going to try not to hit the teeth, but we're going to hit them because I am terrible. Using my brush, my mouth for moisture for my brush, and I'm getting in here and I'm painting. I will hit some of the teeth, but I'm going to try to not hit a lot of teeth on this. That's the goal, because I got to come back and paint them a lighter color, and that will be a ton easier like this. Oh, while I was out of town, I got to hang out with my buddy Jason, who lives out in Ohio. And we went to a game store near Columbus, or maybe it's in Columbus, called the Guard Tower. And they even have a YouTube channel, and they produce videos where they play different tabletop games, and I think board games as well. And the store is phenomenal. So if you get a chance to go to the Columbus area, they had a lot of sales going on. And even though I only bought a handful of things there, I wanted to buy a lot more. I had a very nice time. They had a charming young lady named Hadley who gave us a dime tour of the store, which turned out to be a several dollar tour of the store. And she was very enthusiastic and knowledgeable. She knew a lot about board games and miniature games. She knew where things were located in the store very well. And she told us about her D&D characters and stuff. And when I say D&D, keep in mind it's a generic term many people use in conversation for role-playing games. Because she was definitely talking about a Pathfinder character and what I believe was an old-school Palladium character. But she called them D&D characters. So, if you're using a gunslinger, chances are you're playing Pathfinder. So, just a thought. So I ended up painting all the teeth red because I am stupid. So now I'm going to come back, dry that. And using an off-white color, ivory is my choice. I could have used khaki or ivory or any of those kind of colors, antique parchment, linen, any of that kind of stuff would work. The khaki might be a little bit dark for what I'm doing here, but it could work. And I'm just going to grab those teeth. I'm not going for perfection as per the usual. Because we're here to get stuff on the table. Well, that was an interesting text. We're here to get stuff on the table for our game. We're not here to spend our entire life perfecting something we may never get to throw at our party. For those of you that are the big planner DMs, and I used to be one, you know what it's like to have this giant thing planned and no one ever does it. You're like, so, you're taking the party to the mine. You guys are all ready to go? Oh, we're not going to the mine, dude. You're what? What? Yeah, we were outside having a smoke, and we're not going to the mine. Yeah, we're going to go, like, cut down trees and try to sell them for money. Like, oh. Then you're going to go to the mine? No, that sounds dangerous. Like, damn it. So his eyes are squint shut. Now, I'm not going to try to have a little sliver of eyes sticking out. So we're just going to do one more quick step. I'm getting a light green color. This is called Limeade. I'm going to hit some of these circles. With different amounts of enthusiasm. Now, my original idea for the Yagsluthe, he or she did not have these bumps. This miniature that I used, it was like a How to Train a Dragon dude, did have them. And I said, hey, if we're going to have them, let's implement them. So now I'm just going to make them pop out a little bit before we finish this mini up. And this obnoxious bright green really makes no sense with the rest of the scheme. I kind of like it. It's a little different for me. And it's going to make this creature maybe a little bit more memorable for the people who see it on the table. I'm also going to use that same green and just drag that along the claws of the feet and hands, or feet and feet, whatever you have on these Yagsluthes. All right, let's come back with dark brown and do the base. Thank God I finally made a trip to Walmart to buy some paint, or we wouldn't be able to do bases anymore, folks. That's how bad we were. We were about to be in base drought because I was out of my dark brown. And I sure as hell ain't going to use mini paint on bases if I can help it. Plastic bristle brush. Burn umber. Not looking for perfection. Looking for coverage. So if you look at this, you don't think, oh, look, he didn't paint the base. You think, oh, wow, the base is dirt. Well, it won't be just dirt if you know me. It'll be some other stuff, too. Well, let's get under here. Darken it up. See what we can do. So, People were talking about making homemade flock. I will show you how I make flock. It is not an idea that I invented. I was taught it by one of the Game Shop old heads. It is not a Chris Von Doom exclusive. I did not invent it. Nothing that I do did I invent. I might mix techniques, or my lazy painting kind of is my lazy painting, but I didn't invent anything, dude. I just use shit I learned from other people in different patterns and different days to come up with different results. I didn't invent any of this, so don't think I'm one of those fancy-ass YouTubers that invented Mod Podge and black paint. I'm not. I'm a regular dude. And I know a lot of those people didn't ask for people to name shit after them. It just happened organically. But some of them do. And it cracks me up. Like, I'm using the Doom technique of slapping paint on randomly in 30 minutes. If you call it that, good. If you don't, good too. The Doom technique. Slapping shit on fast and being done. All right, we're going to air gun it one more time before we come back and do some flock. But before we do the flock, we're going to do one more step, guys. Any light brown or medium brown wash will work for this. Flesh tone or strong tone, or I'm sorry, not strong tone. Flesh tone or soft tone will work for this. Anything you have that'll create a contrast that'll move between a cool and hot color. So it's going to have to be kind of brown based, unfortunately, is going to work. So I'm going to use soft tone. And I'm going to get a little bit of soft tone here. I'm going to get a chunky boy brush like this. And the first thing I'm going to work on is that upper torso. And I'm going to get it in all the cracks, because that's going to be important. And then I'm going to try to salvage what I can and drag it down onto the tail, so I'm not wasting a bunch. But you can't play with it and move it around too much. You will start reactivating the paint and pulling it up. So once you get down to about right there, stop. Get a piece of fabric. Dab off your extremities, the parts that stick out the most. And continue on. Work your way down the body. Don't be shy. Get some of that wash on there or whatever you're using. I'm using a strong tone, or what am I using? Flesh tone? Soft tone. But make sure it's got the right base, that you can pull it between a hot tone and a cold tone, like that orangish red and that purple. If you use something black on that hot tone, it's going to look very forced on that warm tone. This is going to mute some of that green that happened organically from the bumps. So when I say organically, that's a lie. It was forced, and I did it without a second thought at the last moment. I had not planned it. So to say it was organic is semi-true, but not true. Now when you come down here to the purple, you want to make sure you are dragging no reactivated purple paint into this mouth, or you will destroy the work you just did on your teeth and stuff. Okay? So what I'm going to do is first get all around the mouth separate. And then I'm going to come back in here and make sure there's no purple in that. Yeah, there we go. Then I'm going to hit the mouth. And I'm not going to do a whole lot of work on that mouth. I'm just going to mostly drag it across the teeth in big areas. And I'm not getting in all the cracks and everything. Now I'm going to get my fabric and I'm going to dab around the eyes, the nose, the cheeks, some of the extremities. Then I'm going to come and I'm going to touch my green dots a little bit, but not too much. I'm going to do my nails just a tad. All right, sweet. That is definitely what I signed up for. You're like, oh, she doesn't have hair. Well, it's a monstrous tail. It's not a real woman. And upon inspection from a distance, you might fail the check and think it's a woman. But there will be no mistake when you get close enough. And for them, close enough means they can get a hold of you. That's close enough. I'm going to start putting some of these brushes away. I have a lot of mess out here. We're going to need to dry this, so I'm going to get as I'm wiping brushes down and cleaning them out, I'm going to get my +5 hot air gun burning. Now remember, that soft tone will not truly cure unless you let it sit. Using a hot air gun like I'm doing is just so it's not sticky and wet on the surface, so that I can get some flock on the base without it sticking to the mini. Okay? It will not really be cured, so do not clear coat it immediately after just because it looks dry. Let it sit for an hour or two. Let it really cure. You will regret it, because you'll grab it one day and it'll come off on your thumb and stuff. Let it cure. Let it absorb as much as it's going to absorb into the paint below it, and then let it dry onto that. And that's where it cures. That's the cure. All right, it's dry enough to get some of this stuff on. We're going to grab a little bit of clear glue, which I've still not filled up. And I told myself after I finished the monster manual completely that I was going to fill it up. For those of you that are new, I did the entire 3.5 monster manual. Made miniatures for all of it. Made or painted miniatures for all of it. And none of them cost very much to do. The Dungeon Swag ones, which were about almost $3 a miniature, were probably the most expensive things in the entire monster manual. Many of it I made out of tin foil and glue and paint and sticks and whatever else shit I could find. I've used some foam, but the gist is HeroClix are a great piece to use for making stuff. Plastic animals from the Dollar Tree or wherever I could get them cheap. So keep in mind, if you're interested in making monsters, I have done the whole monster manual. There are videos on every monster in the 3.5 monster manual from A to Z. And also the appendix animals, which were vermin and creature or animals. So, all right. So that is the Yagsluthe. Remember, he or she will hide in the ground. It'll make its den in between bushes. And then when it hears humanoids coming, it'll stick its tail up and wiggle it around, hey, 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 and it makes girly noises, lures them in. They think they're saving the damsel in distress or a foreign lady in peril, and then when they get close, they realize her eyes aren't open and closed. They're just discoloration, darker spots, and the mouth itself is some kind of gross butthole-shaped orifice that could be a butthole, or it could be a blowhole, or it could be whatever, that blows air and makes screeching noises like it's asking for help in a language you just can't make out. And then it will whip you with its tail. The arms will wrap around you when you get close enough, and it'll throw you in its mouth and swallow you whole and start to grind you up and eat you. Yagsluthe, new creature. You can make one of these pretty easy. You see, it didn't take much. Like I showed you at the beginning, you could use a brontosaurus and a T-Rex, a little brontosaurus body and T-Rex head to accomplish this, and any kind of female miniature to accomplish this. You could make a male one, depending on your campaign setting, if that would work. I made a female one because I'm old and I'm a little misogynistic in certain ways about adventuring and my beliefs about medieval times. And even though it's a fantasy game, I often forget that that the sexism that existed in reality doesn't have to exist in my world. So I'll unthinking make a monster like this where it's a female in distress. But you could do it with a male, truthfully. It's just like I said, I'm programmed with misogyny from like the stuff I've read and the movies I've seen and stuff where the damsel's always in distress. But really, it doesn't have to be a damsel. So anyways, I'd like you guys to do me a favor and do the YouTube algorithm game with me. Like, subscribe, share, notification icon, comment, that stuff, come to the website, buy some miniatures. Not these miniatures, real miniatures. Dungeon Swag miniatures are beautiful, high quality resin miniatures, and they're absolutely a delight to paint. Well, they're a little challenging for me sometimes, but they're a delight to paint, and they're high quality. They're flexible, unlike normal resin that's very brittle and breaks. These will bend, and you can work with them, and I love them. The reason we sell them is because we got so tired of not being able to afford beautiful miniatures, and we said, hey, if we sell beautiful miniatures, we get to keep some for ourselves. And boom, dungeonswag.com. So anyways, come to our Discord. We play video games on there too. We don't just only paint minis and stuff, but there is people on there crafting, and we'd love you to come join our community and be part of the process that we have where we build each other up and become better painters, crafters, and real life adventurers, because that's what this is real life adventure. We're stepping outside of our comfort zone and going onto YouTube to show people what we love, or we're showing people on Discord, even though we might be nervous to do so, or whatever you do each day that's an adventure for you. So please come join us, and we'd love to see you there. Have a great evening. We'll see you next time.